Hello and welcome to our first YouTube live stream of 2021. As always, I always start my live streams just a minute early because you never know what YouTube's going to do, especially when we're in lockdown. Lots of people are doing lives. So welcome to our first one of 2021. We are going to be starting in just a second, but while you're waiting, feel free to drop your name and where you're from in the chat. And question for you, do you have a plan for 2021 for your organisation? So thank you for joining us today. My name's Lynsey and I'm from Social Bee. I'm an international digital marketing strategist and trainer. And my job today is to share with you my top 8 tips of how to make your business a success in 2021, whether you're business to business or business to consumer. As always, if you have any questions, please do drop them in the chat. I'm more than happy to answer them. So for those very observational ones of you, you may think, Lynsey, where's all your plants? You normally have lovely plants behind you. Well, thanks to lockdown number 3, we're having to be a bit adaptive in our family. So I'm currently living with my parents due to childcare, and hopefully my 3-year-old won't start screaming or shouting Peppa Pig in the background. But if we do, I apologise. We're all living in the lockdown. But thank you so much for joining us today. I really hope over the next 30 minutes we can share some great tips with you. So as always, if you have any questions, please do drop them in the chat. But what I want to share with you is B2B and B2C tips today. And I've got 8, hopefully really good meaty tips to share with you. So first of all, let's not deny the fact that this time last year, we all probably had a lot more solid plans than what we might have this year. Do you have plans in place for this year? Do you have a solid plan that you're thinking, yep, I'm going to go with this? I don't know about you, but I've really struggled to get motivated this year. I'm not going to deny. I'm already wishing Christmas here because I'm thinking if we can get to December, we'll all be in hopefully a happier place. But I'm going to share my first tip with you. My first tip is to actually have data at your fingertips. There are so many organizations, even over the last couple of weeks that we've been talking to, that are doing sort of okay online, where they're business to business or business to consumer, but they're not looking at the data. For any of you that have been in our live chats before or been in any of our sessions, there's 2 things that I'm really, really passionate about. One is data and one is insight. Now, in normal circumstances, you would look over your data over the last couple of years and look at seasonality and look at insights. But because of COVID, a lot of that data has absolutely changed. So I would be looking at more recent data to build my strategy. I'll be looking at my Google Search Console on a weekly basis, and I'll also be looking at my Google Analytics to see who, what, where, and when people are coming to my website. But I would still have a plan. I would have a very rough plan of what I'm going to be talking about, who I'm going to be trying to attract, and what success looks like for me or the organization I'm working with in 2021. But that said, you absolutely need to remain agile, because at the moment we can't tell what's going to happen minute by minute, hour or day by day, regardless of what country you're in. Things are very, very fluid at the moment. But that said, that leads me on to my second tip for today. Know your customers. Again, whether they're business to business or business to consumer, your customers might be the same customers as they were last year before COVID, and they might just want different things. They might be the same customers wanting the same things, or they might be new customers wanting the things you sell or the service you offer. Let me bring this to life for you as an example. So as an example, if you sell garden products, and you may have traditionally sold your garden products online or in a physical store, and you may have traditionally sold them to people who are already into gardening. Now, it doesn't take rocket science of us all to realize that when we went into lockdown, we started new habits: gardening, baking, fitness, yoga, cycling, any type of things to occupy our time. And what you might have seen if you're a gardening organization is that the trends for people wanting to do gardening have increased significantly, but those increases will have come from less knowledgeable people. So you might have new customers that might be looking for different things, more basic things from a gardening point of view. From a business to business point of view, you might be a consultancy or a service-based business in the UK or in a different part of the world, and your customers who you may have traditionally met face to face now may be looking at things online. And I'm going to come on to that later when we come on to content. But we have a comment already. Stefan, plan for 2021, major milestones in the year used as markers, but try to be flexible so everything has a backup approach. Absolutely, Stefan. We need plan A, plan B, plan C, and plan Z, because we never know what's going to happen, do we? So having some major milestones, absolutely, but being agile at the same time. So knowing your customers would be my absolutely second core tip. And there's a few ways you can understand them, using some tools, which I'm going to share with you in a second. Using your ears. I always say in our training, using your ears is so powerful. People are too keen to go, posting content on social media or doing PPC or SEO. But there is so much you can learn online from listening, and also when people are phoning or when you're speaking to your sales team, just listening to see what your audience are saying, what questions they're asking, what challenges they have, turning that listening, so turning the volume up on your ears to understand who, what, and where people are buying. The third tip I want to share with you is knowing your numbers. Now, we've seen a lot of organizations, much like all of us, like we're trying to keep as much cash in the bank right now because cash is king, and cash means we can protect ourselves from any type of other curveball that could be thrown this year or next year. There's no denying that the fact that we're in every country pretty much, there is a massive recession going on. And although some people are spending money, be it consumers or businesses, there's still a lot of, we still need to be very preservative with our cash. So in terms of your figures, you absolutely need to know your figures more than ever before. So what do I mean by that in terms of knowing your figures? If I was you, I would be sitting down and working out, if you're a business to business, my cost per visit to my website, my cost per inquiry, my cost per lead, my cost per quote, and my cost per conversion. And then I'll be looking at actually my conversion rate and actually how much a lead is worth to me, how much a sale is worth to me. And then I'll be working it backward and saying, okay, if I want to get from this revenue to this revenue this year, how many leads do I need to get there based on my conversion rate? And then you can work out how much time and money you should be investing online. If you're an e-commerce business, whether that be a B2B one or a B2C one, you should be doing the same with a sale. So in terms of how many sales you're generating, how much it costs you to generate them, lifetime value of your customer, if you can get them to buy more or buy different products or upsell or do subscription, all of those figures are absolutely critical. There's some very successful businesses out there, and we speak to some doing okay online, exploring overseas. And I was talking to an organization the other day, they haven't done an insignificant amount online. I think they did like 1.25 million last year online, and that had increased 50% because of COVID. But I go logging into their systems to have a look. So they've asked us to have a look at something, and they're not tracking where their sales are coming from. So they're spending money on search engine optimization, they're spending money on PPC, they're spending money on social. And I'm like, where's your business coming from? And they're like, we don't know. And I'm like, you absolutely need to know this. So knowing your numbers is absolutely, absolutely critical, even more now than ever before. So for those of you that have just joined us, we're whittling our way through my 8 tips of getting a really solid, successful strategy for 2021. My name's Lynsey, and I'm an international digital marketing strategist. And regardless if you're a B2B or B2C organization today, we're cantering through some top tips to help make your business a success for this year. As always, if you have any questions or observations or want to share your hints and tips, please do drop them in the chat. We're always welcome and happy to see them. So my 4th tip is probably quite an interesting one and potentially quite controversial, but I'm going to share it anyway because it's my view, and obviously it is only my view, is having a strategy focused on the long term, not just the short term. So what do I mean by this? The easy example I can do with bringing this to life is really thinking about e-commerce, because when it comes to e-commerce, you might be a business that sell, I don't know, mobile phones. It might be a business that you sell, products for $80,000. You could be selling a product online. Now, most businesses in e-commerce are always focused on people that want to buy their product now. So have high intent, are really specific on, their searches, whether it be on their desktop or their mobile phone or even voice search. And absolutely, you want to be in that space. But guess what? Everyone else is competing for that space in that high intent, high sale now. But also just wear the customer's shoes for a minute, including yourself. So it might be over the last 12 months that before COVID was here, you might have thought, I'm just going to buy this product and buy it. But some of us have had more time on our hands, and some of us have wanted to investigate things more. Now, before we purchase things, if we don't know what we want to purchase, but with maybe thinking of buying a new mobile phone, or maybe we're thinking about buying a car, where do we go? We go to the internet and we start doing searches. Now, our intent is very low, but we're giving away data signals that are a good signal for us if we sell that product to start warming our business up to those people and turning them from an unknown about our business to a known about our business, to making them aware about our business. And thinking about that journey, there's a huge amount of people in that low intent bit giving away data signals. So I'm going to come on to another tip in a second. But in terms of that high intent driving that sale here, it's very expensive. The conversion rate could be quite high, subject to shipping costs and the other signals you're giving out. But there's a huge amount of people that are investigating here. So they'll be typing in questions into Google and other search engines. They'll be doing voice search and asking questions. They'll be listening to podcasts. They'll be doing social media searches. There is where there's a huge opportunity. And this is where a huge amount of businesses miss out on the B2B and B2C side. Even more so, I think, on the B2B side, because when we talk about business to business and thinking about sort of professional services or consultancy services or generating leads, it's a place where people buy from people. So people are not going to suddenly come to your website and go, yeah, I want to buy that consultancy service. People buy from people. So they might have typed in a question like, how can I generate more sales for my business? It might be that they're thinking about installing a new IT system. So they might be typing into Google, what considerations should I think about if I'm trying to upgrade my IT system or going from traditional server into the cloud, as an example. They're questions that people are typing in and they will be landing somewhere. So if you're creating content around that, which is sort of giving a sneaky tip away from my next tip, if you're giving content away there, showing your expertise, showing that you know what you're talking about, giving the credibility, sharing some of your hints and tips, they might think, oh, that's interesting. Going to sign up for their email, or I'm going to sign up to their social media and follow their social media. They may well not contact you there and then because their intent is not to contact and get a quote. Their intent at that point is to information gather. So just think about it like that, because there's a huge opportunity there. And we've been doing an awful lot of training in the last 3 to 6 months with B2B and B2C organizations, and just really thinking about playing the long game as well as the short game, because the short game's changed, but also so has the long one. In terms of thinking about content is absolutely king, and content links to actually my 5th tip, which is content is king. So just as a reminder, my first tips that I've already shared with you is having data at your fingertips. So really looking at your data, more recent data. So look at it on a weekly basis and look at the trends. And I'm going to share some tools to do that in a second. Know your customers. They might be the same customers. They might be different customers. They might be the same customers wanting different things. They might be new customers wanting the thing that you sold previously. Knowing your numbers. Your numbers are absolutely critical now more than ever before. Strategy, and not just focusing on the short-term gain, focusing on the long game as well, because especially in B2B, people make decisions over a much longer process. And because they can't go to events, because they can't network in the traditional way, people are turning for Google search. They're listening to podcasts. They're learning, searching on their voice searches as well. So really think about turning the volume up on those ears and using data and insights to better understand what your audience want, and not just from a sales point of view, the challenges that they have, the questions they're asking, and turning that into my next tip, which is the content. Keywords are currency in my book, and not just short-term keywords. So not just thinking about mobile phone or IT system. The long term, the long phrases are currency as well, because when people are searching, they're giving away intent. They're giving away signals where your content should be appearing. And content is absolutely key. You might have an amazing website. You might have the best product or service in the world, but I'm still speaking to lots of organizations that have the best product or the service, but they're not dangling those carrots to actually attract people in. They're just selling. And it's so easy when we're in difficult situations like we're in at the moment to just default into sales mode. The sales mode of, reaching out to people on LinkedIn and doing the cold calling without any perceived thought in terms of value. So really think about value mindset rather than a sales mindset, and have the sales value mindset when people have that high intent, but really start to drip feed your longer term intent that people have, and get them signed up to your email, get them signed up to your social media, because we've got to remember at the end of the day, if you have an email list and they have subscribed to your email, you've got power there. And we've been doing a lot of that over the last 12 months. Our email open rate was relatively high. It was about 5%. It's pretty much about 30% now. 30% of people receive our emails, open them, and then they action. And we're getting really good feedback on our content, because all of our content is about giving value. And if you give value, people will go, that's the company to you. So whether you're a B2B or B2C, the more value you can give, the better. Just as a reminder, if you have any questions or things you want to share in the chat, please feel free to do so. But if you want more hints and tips on content, then I did a YouTube live last year. I did one on Content 101, and I also did a content around B2B with Andy Bound. So they're two great YouTube lives you can listen to, or you can get them on our podcast as well. So do hit those up if you haven't listened to them, but we've had some great feedback on them already. My next tip is use the right tools. There is a plethora of tools out there that you can use for your organization. And we often get asked, what tool should we be using? What tool is going to help us? What tool this and what tool that? A tool is just a tool if it doesn't have a purpose. So rather than trying to find the tool, think about the problem you have. And it might be, okay, how can I track my sales? Google Analytics, CRM database, talking to my sales team, talking to my marketing team. Don't try and find a tool to solve a problem. Because if you're trying to find a tool and then shoehorn it into what you're trying to do, you're going about it all the wrong way. The tools that I absolutely are my favorite, and the ones I strive for, and the ones that are not utilized enough in my book, is Google Analytics. Google Analytics will tell you exactly what's going on under the bonnet of your website. If it's set up correctly, it will tell you where your leads are coming from. It will tell you where your email signups are coming from. It will tell you where your sales are coming from. 90% of Google Analytics accounts are not set up correctly. People are often very frightened of Google Analytics as well, because they're like, oh, there's so much data in there. And I agree with you, there is a lot of data in there. So again, don't go wandering into Google Analytics and think, I'm just going to go in and have a look today and see what sort of data I can find. You'll walk out with 101 other questions. So get Google Analytics set up correctly, then try and solve problems with it. So go in and think, where do my inquiries come from? Go in, find the answer, come out. Where's my best return on investment? Go in, have a look, come out, make better decisions. So Google Analytics, setting it up correctly, is my number one tool. And it's also free. And people often think, oh, if it's free, it's not going to be very good. It is amazing. It's an absolutely favorite tool for me and the team at Social Bee. My second favorite tool, but just as important, is Google Search Console. So Google Analytics looks at your website and says what's going on under the bonnet. Google Search Console looks at sort of what people are thinking about coming to have a look under your bonnet, but may or may not have visited yet. It will also give you some really good indicators in terms of things that people are looking for, not just in the UK, but other countries as well. So Google Search Console is amazing to see where you're ranking, what you're ranking for, what you should be ranking for online, what countries there could be opportunities in, and people are maybe seeing your content but not visiting. So it gives you such a lot of huge information, really, really valuable. Other tools that I really, really love and are valuable is Hotjar. There's other ones available, but Hotjar basically helps you to have a look at your website and see what people are doing and where they're getting stuck on your website. So it can really help with, might be you're generating lots of traffic to your website, and looking at Google Analytics, you're going, we're generating lots of traffic, but they're not converting. Hotjar is a really good way to have a look at that. Another tool that I love is SparkToro. Now, SparkToro was launched, I think it was about in the middle of last year. I did a review on it on our YouTube channel, but it's an amazing tool. If you're thinking about where your audience are listening, what channels they're looking at, and released today, they said they're looking at what press they're looking at as well. So this is hot off the press today. Rand has emailed everybody and said that it's now going to tell you what sort of press they're looking at. But you can put in a job title if you really know who your target audience are. You can put in your website and see what people are looking at, what they're interested in outside of your environment ecosystem. You can put in your competitors and have a look as well. You can put in countries. There is such a lot of insight in there. But as I said earlier, don't go picking a tool for the sake of it and think, how can I shoehorn this into what I want to use? Think about what problem you have and think about how you can solve it, and pick a tool to help you do that. So lots and lots of tools to share with you. Another favorite tool of ours at Social Bee is an exit intent or an exit pop-up tool. Lots of organizations, especially B2C and B2B, to be fair, have jumped on this, and they create the pop-up as soon as you visit the website. My big tip in terms of pop-ups is don't put them in as soon as you visit the website, because on e-commerce, people often pop them up and go, within 2 seconds, you get this pop-up saying, sign up today and get 10% off. Think about it this way. if I was coming into your physical store, which I know probably isn't allowed at the moment, but I wouldn't come into your store and you wouldn't shove something under my nose straight away and say, give me your email address and I'll give you 10% off today. Like, it's just not the etiquette, is it? And I haven't had a time to have a look around. So don't focus that intent as soon as I come in, because I haven't even purchased yet. Think about setting your exit intent up over a certain period of time, or if people are moving towards the exit button, or if they've visited certain pages. Now, you can use that to offer them some money off. You can use it to encourage them to sign up. You can use it to offer value, or you can use it as a sort of a, why did you visit today? Again, on the B2B side as well. So if you visit our website, you'll see that we have an exit pop-up that we use on some pages. And we only use it on some pages because we know that if people have visited this page or this page, then their intent will be slightly different from just visiting our homepage. So hopefully those tools are very, very useful to you. What are your favorite tools? Feel free to drop them in the chat, because I always love to learn about new tools and see how people are using them. So do drop them in the chat if there's any tools that you love and why you love them. For those of you that have just joined us today, we're cantering through my 8 top tips of 2021, things that you can really help harness and focus to try and make our businesses successful for this year, regardless if you're a business to business or business to consumer organization. And again, if you're in the UK or overseas. Thinking about right tools and expertise as well. One other sort of bonus tip I want to share with you is think about not just the country of where you're operating in, whether you're B2B or B2C. There are lots of people not just looking in your country, they're looking further afield for services and products. So think about the expansion of opportunity. We do an awful lot of international work, and we've really focused on since last March, really, looking at a global strategy for our organizations, but also by country. And it really spreads your risk if you are able to offer your service or your product internationally, because it might be that in the UK at the moment, we have, really high lockdown, but in some other parts of the world, the lockdown is a lot less. So they might have a stronger recovery on things. So it can really help spread your risk, spread where you're investing your time, effort, and money from a digital marketing point of view. And my 7th tip today is really thinking about being ready for change. I've shared an awful lot of tips with you already today, and hopefully they've been useful. But there is one absolutely major change that's going to be happening March this year. For any of you that listen to our podcast or read our digital roundup, we will have shared that tip already, and we've done another blog post on it separately, because it is so, so important if you use Google. But come March this year, Google has announced already that they're going to be ranking websites mobile first. So what does that mean in plain English? First of all, what it doesn't mean if you've got a mobile website, tick, you are done. It's not as simple as that, unfortunately, because Google wants to make sure that every search that happens is really focused on the consumer. So what do you need to do to check you are ready for March 2021? Because come that time, obviously I'm not going to say your rankings are going to fall off the planet, but it's a big major change that Google have announced. So you need to make sure you are ready for that. Now, if your website isn't optimized for mobile in a number of different factors, it might be that you might be losing rankings. So what does this mean? First of all, it means if you haven't ticked a lot of the boxes for Google, come after March this year, even if people are searching on their desktop, if your website isn't optimized for a number of different factors for mobile, it won't potentially rank your website. So that's potentially a massive change, which is why we've highlighted it in January, because it gives you a couple of months to resolve it. But it isn't just making sure your website is mobile friendly. It's looking at a number of different factors. It's looking at how quickly your website loads. It's looking at your website speed. It's looking at your user journey within your website. It's looking at that you're even on a mobile page. What I find sometimes, if I go to a mobile version of a page, I might be going on an e-commerce site and the exit intent pops up as soon as I get there and it's wider than my screen. That is not a mobile friendly environment to be in. So the best piece of advice I can give to you today is Google Lighthouse. Again, it's in our blog post and we share it in our podcast, but make sure you put your website through the survey, because just by putting your website in, it will say you need to correct this, 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 and this. So Google is trying to be as transparent as possible, but you need to look at Google Lighthouse, put your website in, it will tell you how you score. And probably a lot of the answers are going to be technical things that are going to come back. And you're probably going to say, Lynsey, I've no idea what this means. But fear not, If you've got a question, do drop us an email. We're more than happy to try and guide you in the right direction. So drop info@socialbee.co.uk, or go to your web developer and say, look, we need to try and sort these problems out, but we need to sort them out sooner rather than later. So if you have a really old website, it might be a massive change. Or if you've got a mobile optimized website and it's just loading slowly, or the images are not mobile optimized, or the user experience is not great, or you've not got pages reflecting desktop and mobile, then you might have a few niggles to sort out. But if you've got any questions on it, do drop us an email at info@socialbee.co.uk. So any tools that you love to use, or any hints and tips that you want to share, please do drop them in the chat. And this is going to be my last tip. So we've cantered through a lot of tips today. I really hope it's been useful for you. And we're trying to help as many businesses right now still because of lockdown and the various problems we're all having at the moment. But my last tip is measure your return on investment. So this almost like goes full circle, because my first tip was use data, have a strategy, know your customers, know your numbers. You have to measure your return on investment. Google Analytics will help you do that if you set it up correctly, making sure you're speaking to all of your team. Marketing and digital marketing often ends up sitting in the marketing department because it had the word marketing in it. But marketing touches every single business point within your organization. If you're really, really large, or if you're really, really small, marketing touches your sales team or your salesperson, your customer service, your marketing, your content. So make sure that if you're a business to business organization, you are speaking to your sales team and making them aware of, if you are doing some paid stuff or some SEO stuff and you're generating leads, say to them, look, this is what we're doing. It's really important that you feed back to us on the quality of our leads, because we want to make them better for you. If you don't feed that back, then I don't know what's working and what isn't. So just telling me they're rubbish or not giving me any feedback at all is really not very helpful. So work as a team, break down those silos and make sure everyone is involved in the whole digital marketing process and the whole sales funnel. Make sure you're measuring that whole sales funnel. Anya, I hope I've pronounced your name correctly. Using Pure Clarity, clever system. Sounds like an interesting tool, Anya. I haven't heard of that one. I will go and take a look, and feel free, everybody, if you want to have a look, it's in the chat. If Anya, if you want to share what it does, feel free to do so. But make sure you're measuring that full return on investment and measuring that full journey, because like I said earlier, in terms of knowing your numbers and content, many organizations focus on cost per inquiry, cost per conversion. They don't measure the middle of that journey. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm online and when I'm doing things, I don't just jump from no awareness to sale. I'll often, as I said earlier, it might be that I'm looking for an answer to something and I sign up to an email. That would be a measure of success. So you need to be measuring these various different touch points, because if you measure all of the touch points, awareness, consideration, purchase, or, I'm a big fan of see, think, do, care, measure every touch point with some core KPIs and some core efficiency and effectiveness levers, then you can really understand what's working and what isn't. If you only measure cost per visitor and cost per sale, then it's going to be really hard to measure that whole of that journey. So for those of you that's just joined us, Jonathan's just joined us in the US. Hi, Jonathan. Lovely to see you. And no need to apologize. I know everybody's busy, but of course you can watch this back on recorded. And I've galloped through a lot of tips today. But I've shared with you 8 hopefully amazing tips in thinking about how to make your business successful in 2021, whether you're B2B or B2C. So just to round up my core tips, the first of all is data at your fingertips. Have a plan. Make sure you have a plan, but make sure it's an agile plan for 2021. My second tip is know your customers. They might be the same customers. They might be different customers. They might be the same customers wanting different products. They might be new customers wanting different products. Know your numbers, your cost per inquiry, your cost per visit, your cost per conversion, because then you can really look at what's going on. Sorry, I've pronounced your name totally incorrectly, so apologies. But the Pure Clarity is a plugin that helps you track customer journey and helps you optimize which products they see. Amazing. Sounds like a great tool. Sounds similar to Hotjar, but a little bit different. On top of your numbers, make sure you have a strategy and not just focusing on the high intent, the high sale. Focus on the low intent, but giving away signals that people are giving away to make sure you're getting them signed up to your email and getting them followed up to your social media as well. Because when you get them in your database, you can then continually market them and keep them front of mind. And we've seen a lot of that over the last 8 to 12 months, where we've been creating a lot of content. People have signed up to our email and they've been following us on social, and they may have forgotten about us because, hey, you know, we've got a lot of stuff to go on. But if you're then creating content, then they might be looking at LinkedIn or looking at social media and go, oh yeah, I was thinking about that, I must contact that. And we have had that. We've had people that have attended webinars, then listened to our podcast, then signed up for business, because they've got to know us and they know we really know what we're talking about. And from a business to consumer point of view, there've been people that have been looking at products, then it gets to Christmas and go, oh yeah, I've been remarketed, I wanted to buy that for my aunt, I'm going to buy it now. So lots of hints and tips in keeping front of mind. Content is king. Shared lots of tips on that, but I also shared my Content 101, which is YouTube last year, and a B2B one with Andy Bounds. So do go and have a look at that on our podcast or our YouTube. Using the right tools, I shared lots of tools. So do rewind if you've missed that section of my YouTube live today. Be ready for change. I shared a massive change that's going to be happening in March this year with Google, and totally re-looking at how things are ranked, being whether it's on your desktop or your mobile. They're going to look at mobile first ranking. So even if you have a mobile friendly website, that is not good enough. So go and have a look at Google Lighthouse, get a review of where your website is and make those improvements. And finally, measure your return on investment. Now more than ever, cash is king. We need cash in the bank. We need to keep a really strong hold on our cash. But what's more important is if you turn off all of your marketing channels, how are you going to generate business? So you have to spend money on marketing. You have to stay front of mind, whether people are wanting your product or service right now or not, they're still looking. So use Google Search Console, use Google Analytics, use SparkToro, use some of the other tools that we share in other hints and tips sessions to really understand what our audience is looking for, and making sure, even if they aren't able or want to buy your product right now, keeping that front of mind and making sure when they are ready or able to purchase, they are ready to go. So I hope my 8 tips have been of use to you. Thank you for sharing your hints and tips as well. It's been fantastic to be back. And as always, we'll be back again next month with another YouTube Live. We've got lots of blog content and YouTube content and podcast content. So please do go and have a look. We're getting lots of great feedback on the great hints and tips we're giving away. But thank you for joining us today. I really hope you found it a useful session, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Take care.